Captain Jake Morrison stood completely exposed on the crystal platform, his uniform folded neatly beside him. The crystals around the chamber pulsed with increasing intensity, their light seeming to respond to his heartbeat. He had never felt more vulnerable in his entire life, yet somehow he didn't feel weak. He felt strangely free. Queen Velthar's translucent form shimmered as she observed him. Her inner light patterns moved faster now, creating swirling galaxies of color that Morrison was beginning to understand represented her emotions. He could see curiosity, hope, and something that might have been admiration. "This is remarkable," the Queen said, her voice filled with wonder. "In all my years, I have never seen anything like this," Morrison frowned. "Your Majesty, I don't understand. Other species must have been willing to be vulnerable before." "No, Captain, you misunderstand what I'm seeing." The Queen's form pulsed brighter. The Andromedans removed their armor, but their minds remained closed. The Tau Centauri revealed their bodies, but their emotions stayed hidden. "You have done something different." Morrison felt the warm crystal floor beneath his feet. The sensation was strange, but not unpleasant. "What am I doing differently?" "You are being truly open," the Queen explained. "Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The crystals are responding to your complete honesty in ways they never have before." As if to prove her point, the crystals around Morrison began to glow in new colors. Soft gold light mixed with deep blue, creating patterns that seemed to dance in the air. Morrison watched in amazement as the light formed shapes that somehow represented his thoughts and feelings. "What is happening to me?" Morrison asked. "The crystals are translating your human emotions into something I can understand," the Queen replied. "They are showing me your true self, Captain, and what I see is extraordinary." Morrison watched the light patterns swirl around him. He could see representations of his love for his crew, his determination to protect Earth, his fear of failure. But he could also see something else, something he hadn't expected. The lights showed his genuine desire to understand the Queen, to bridge the gap between their species not through force or trickery, but through simple human connection. "I can see your heart, Captain," the Queen said softly. "You came here not to conquer or deceive, but to truly connect. This is something no other species has ever attempted." The Queen's own form began to change. Her crystal body became even more translucent, and Morrison could see deeper into her inner light. What he saw there took his breath away. The Queen was ancient, far older than he had imagined. She had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, had watched species destroy themselves through greed and fear. But more than that, she was lonely. "You have been alone for so long," Morrison said, the words coming from somewhere deep inside him. "You have been waiting for someone who could truly understand you." The Queen's light patterns shifted to show surprise. "How can you know this?" "I don't know how," Morrison admitted. "But I can feel it. The crystals aren't just showing you my emotions. They're showing me yours too." This was true. Morrison could sense the Queen's thoughts and feelings as clearly as his own. He felt her centuries of isolation, her desperate hope that someday she would find a species that could be trusted. He felt her fear that the hegemony would eventually destroy everything she had worked to protect. "This has never happened before," the Queen said, her voice filled with awe. "The crystals have never created a true connection between different species. You are doing something that should be impossible." Morrison looked at the swirling lights around them both. The gold and blue patterns from his emotions were now mixing with the Queen's silver and purple lights, creating new colors that neither of them had ever seen before. "Maybe it's not impossible," Morrison said. "Maybe it just required the right species to try it." The Queen moved closer to Morrison's platform. As she did, the mixed light patterns grew brighter and more complex. Morrison could feel her emotions more clearly now. Along with the loneliness and hope, he sensed something else. The Queen was beginning to trust him. "Captain," the Queen said, I must tell you something that I have never told any other species. The hegemony is not just a military threat. They are something far worse. The light patterns around the Queen shifted to show images that made Morrison's blood run cold. He saw fleets of dark ships destroying entire worlds, not just conquering them, but completely wiping out all life. He saw species being enslaved and forced to fight against their own kind. He saw the hegemony's true goal, which was not just conquest, but the total elimination of all free will in the galaxy. They are coming for Earth, the Queen continued. Not just to conquer it, but to turn your people into weapons against other species. They have done this to 17 civilizations already. Morrison felt a surge of anger and fear. The light patterns around him turned deep red and orange, reflecting his emotions. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less, the Queen replied. They move faster now because they have learned to use the enslaved species as soldiers. Each victory makes them stronger, Morrison's mind raced. 6 months was not enough time for Earth to prepare any kind of defense. Humanity had advanced technology, but nothing that could match the hegemony's enslaved fleets. There is hope, the Queen said, sensing his despair. The Zephyrians have the power to stop them. Our crystal technology can disrupt their control over the enslaved species. We can free the captured civilizations and turn them back into allies. But you need partners, Morrison realized. You can't fight the hegemony alone. Exactly. We need a species that can be trusted completely. A species that fights not for conquest, but for freedom. A species that can inspire others to resist rather than surrender. The Queen's form pulsed with increasing brightness. Captain, what I am about to show you has never been seen by any other species. It is the true power of the Zephyrians. The chamber around them began to change. The crystal walls became transparent, and Morrison could see beyond them to the surface of the planet. But now he could see the planet as it truly was. The entire world was one massive crystal formation, a single living entity that connected every Zephyrian on the planet. We are not just individuals, the Queen explained. We are all connected through the planet itself. Every thought, every emotion, every decision is shared among all of us. This is why we can detect deception so easily. It is also why we have such powerful technology. Morrison stared in amazement. Your entire species is like one giant mind. Not exactly, the Queen said. We remain individuals, but we are also part of something larger. This connection allows us to work together in ways that other species cannot imagine. But it also makes us vulnerable. If we are betrayed, if our trust is broken, it affects all of us. Morrison began to understand the true importance of the ritual. The Queen wasn't just deciding whether to trust him personally. She was deciding whether to trust humanity with the knowledge of her people's greatest strength and greatest weakness. This is why the ritual is so important, Morrison said. You're not just forming an alliance. You're deciding whether to trust us with your very existence. Yes, the Queen replied. And Captain, I believe you understand the weight of that trust. The light patterns around him grew even brighter, and Morrison felt a new sensation. He could sense not just the Queen's emotions, but something beyond her. He could feel the presence of the entire Zephyrian civilization, millions of crystal beings all watching through their Queen's eyes. They are all here, Morrison whispered. Your whole species is watching this moment. Yes, the Queen confirmed. And they are as amazed as I am. Never before has another species achieved this level of connection with us. Never before has the ritual worked as it was meant to work. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just representing humanity to an alien queen. He was representing humanity to an entire civilization that had the power to save or destroy his species. What happens now? Morrison asked. The Queen's form pulsed with what Morrison now recognized as determination. Now, Captain, we learn if humanity is truly ready to stand as guardians of the galaxy. The real test is just beginning. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the transport shuttle as it approached the Zephyrian homeworld. Through the small window, he could see the planet's surface covered in massive crystal formations that reached toward the sky like frozen lightning. The entire world seemed to pulse with soft light, as if it were alive. 12 hours had passed since Queen Velthar's message. Morrison had spent that time reviewing every piece of information his crew could find about the Zephyrians and their failed diplomatic meetings with other species. The pattern was always the same. Other species would arrive with hidden weapons, secret recording devices, or plans to steal Zephyrian technology. The Queen would somehow detect their deception, and the meetings would end badly. Rodriguez sat across from Morrison in the shuttle. She had insisted on coming despite the Queen's request to meet with Morrison alone. "Captain, I still think this is too dangerous. We don't know what this ritual really involves." Morrison nodded, but kept his eyes on the approaching planet. "No, Lisa, but Earth needs this alliance. The hegemony is only 6 months away from our outer colonies. Without Zephyrian help, we won't stand a chance." The shuttle pilot, a young woman named Amy Chun, who also served as the ship's medical officer, called back to them. "Captain, we're receiving landing coordinates. The Queen wants to meet you in something called the Crystal Sanctum." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Everything about this situation felt wrong, but he had no choice. Earth was counting on him to make this work. The shuttle landed on a platform made of what looked like solid light. As Morrison stepped out, he was amazed by the beauty around him. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Crystal spires rose in all directions, some as tall as skyscrapers, others small and delicate like flowers. The ground beneath his feet was smooth and warm, pulsing gently with blue light. A figure approached him from the largest crystal formation. Morrison recognized her immediately from the transmission. Queen Velthar was even more impressive in person. Her crystal body reflected the light around her, creating rainbow patterns that shifted and changed as she moved. Her eyes were deep and ancient, like looking into the center of a star. "Captain Morrison," the Queen said, her voice carrying clearly through the air without any translation device. "You have come. This shows courage." Morrison bowed slightly, unsure of the proper protocol. "Your Majesty, thank you for receiving us. I hope we can find a way for our species to work together." The Queen's form pulsed with what Morrison hoped was approval. "Come, we must speak privately. The ritual cannot be performed with others present." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I'm Captain Morrison's advisor." In human culture, leaders often have trusted advisors present during important meetings. The Queen turned her attention to Rodriguez, and Morrison saw his friend tense up. There was something about the Queen's gaze that seemed to see right through. "A person, Commander Rodriguez," the Queen said, knowing her name without being told. "Your concern for your captain is admirable, but the ritual of unveiled truth requires complete privacy. No recording devices, no witnesses, no protection except trust itself." Morrison placed a hand on Rodriguez's arm. "It's okay, Lisa. Wait here with Chun. I'll be back soon." Rodriguez looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded reluctantly. "Be careful, Captain." The Queen led Morrison through a maze of crystal corridors. The walls around them seemed to respond to their presence, glowing brighter as they passed. Morrison had never seen anything like it. The crystals weren't just decorative. They were alive, somehow connected to the Queen herself. They entered a circular chamber with walls that reached up into darkness. The floor was made of the same light crystal as the landing platform, but here it was arranged in complex patterns that seemed to shift and change. In the center of the room stood 2 raised platforms, each just large enough for one person to stand on. "This is the Crystal Sanctum," the Queen explained. "Here, truth cannot be hidden. The crystals respond to the deepest emotions and intentions of those who enter. They reveal what words cannot express." Morrison looked around the chamber nervously. "Your Majesty, I want to be honest with you. I don't fully understand what's expected of me." The Queen moved to one of the platforms and gestured for Morrison to take the other. Captain, your species is young, but you have something that older species have lost. You have the ability to be genuinely vulnerable while remaining strong. This is rare among the stars. What do you mean? Morrison asked. The Andromedans came here with armor that could not be penetrated and weapons that could destroy planets. But they were afraid to show any weakness. The Tau Centauri Collective arrived with mental shields so strong that no emotion could escape. The hegemony sent leaders who have removed all capacity for trust or compassion from their minds. Morrison stepped onto his platform and felt a strange tingling sensation. The crystals around him began to glow more brightly, responding to his presence. All of these species, the Queen continued, believed that strength meant hiding their true selves. They thought that vulnerability was a flaw to be eliminated. But true strength comes from the courage to be open, to be honest, to trust even when trust is dangerous. The Queen moved to her platform, and Morrison watched in amazement as her crystal form began to change. The solid appearance of her body became translucent, and he could see patterns of light moving inside her like a living galaxy. Colors swirled and danced, creating pictures and emotions that Morrison could somehow understand without words. This is what the ritual requires, the Queen said, her voice now seeming to come from everywhere at once. Complete openness. All barriers removed. All pretense stripped away. I have shown you my true form, the light that exists within my crystal shell. Now you must do the same. Morrison felt his heart racing. Your Majesty, I'm not sure I understand. Humans don't have crystal bodies or light patterns. No, the Queen agreed, but you have something else. You have the ability to remove the barriers that separate you from others. Physical barriers, emotional barriers, the walls you build to protect yourself from pain and fear. Morrison began to understand what she was asking. The ritual wasn't just about being honest with words. It was about being completely vulnerable, completely open, completely trusting. It meant removing not just physical protection, but emotional protection as well. Your Majesty, Morrison said carefully, you're asking me to trust you completely. To stand before you with no defenses, no. Protection, no way to hide my true thoughts and feelings. Yes, the Queen replied, and I am doing the same. Look at me, Captain. See my fears, my hopes, my doubts about this meeting. Morrison looked at the swirling patterns of light within the Queen's translucent form. Somehow, he could understand what he was seeing. He saw her loneliness, the burden of leading a species that had never found trustworthy allies. He saw her fear that the hegemony would eventually come for her people too. But he also saw hope, a desperate hope that maybe, finally, she had found a species that could be trusted. I see it, Morrison whispered. You're afraid too. Fear is not weakness, Captain. Fear is wisdom. The question is, are you brave enough to trust despite your fear? Morrison took a deep breath. He thought about his crew waiting outside, about Earth and the billions of people counting on him, about the hegemony fleet moving closer every day. Then he thought about the Queen's words. True strength came from the courage to be vulnerable. Slowly, Morrison began to remove his uniform jacket. The crystals around him pulsed brighter, responding to his actions. But this wasn't just about removing clothing. As each piece came off, Morrison felt like he was also removing the walls he had built around his heart. He thought about his doubts, his fears about failing his species, his guilt about the risks he was taking with his crew's lives. He thought about his hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity could find a place among the stars where they could be safe and free. I'm afraid, Morrison said out loud as he continued to undress. I'm afraid that I'll make the wrong decision. I'm afraid that Earth will be destroyed because I wasn't good enough to save it. I'm afraid that my crew trusts me more than I deserve. The Queen's form pulsed with understanding. And yet you continue. This is what makes your species special, Captain. You feel fear, but you do not let it control you. Morrison stood on the platform, physically and emotionally exposed, and waited to see what would happen next. The crystals around him were now blazing with light, and he could feel something changing in the air between him and the Queen. "Now," the Queen said, "we can truly begin to know each other." Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of the large viewing window of the USS Endeavour. The stars looked different here, millions of light years from Earth. They seemed brighter, more alive somehow. He had been staring at them for the past hour, trying to calm his nerves. In all his years of space exploration, he had never received an invitation like this one. The message had arrived 3 days ago through the standard diplomatic channels. It was from the Zephyrians, one of the most advanced species in this sector of the galaxy. The message was simple but strange. Queen Velthara herself wanted to meet with him. Not his entire crew, not the Earth government, just him. The message said it was about something called the Ritual of Unveiled Truth. Morrison had read every report about the Zephyrians that Earth had on file. They were a mysterious species made of living crystal and light. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. They could travel between star systems in minutes, not months. They could reshape matter with their minds. Yet they had never formed an alliance with any other species. They kept to themselves, watching but never interfering. The captain's thoughts were interrupted by footsteps behind him. He turned to see Commander Lisa Rodriguez approaching. She was the ship's xenobiologist, the person who studied alien life forms. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes showed concern. "Captain, we need to talk about this meeting," she said, holding a data pad in her hands. "I've been going through everything we know about Zephyrian culture, and there are some things that worry me." Morrison nodded and gestured for her to continue. Rodriguez had been with him for 3 years, and he trusted her judgment completely. She had helped him navigate dozens of first contact situations with alien species. "The Zephyrians are unlike any species we've encountered," Rodriguez began. "They don't just communicate with words. They communicate through light patterns, crystal, vibrations, and something our scientists call emotional resonance. When they interact with each other, they can feel what the other person is feeling." "That sounds useful for diplomacy," Morrison replied. "No one can lie if everyone can feel your emotions. That's just it, Captain. The Zephyrians have tried to establish contact with other species before. According to our intelligence, they've met with the Andromedans, the Tau Centauri Collective, and even the Hegemony. But every single meeting ended badly. The other species either refused their customs or tried to deceive them somehow." Morrison frowned. The Hegemony was a military alliance of aggressive species that had been conquering systems across the galaxy. If they couldn't make a deal with the Zephyrians, it meant the crystal beings were extremely careful about who they trusted. "What exactly is this Ritual of Unveiled Truth?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez shook her head. "That's what worries me. Our files don't have much information about it. All we know is that it involves complete honesty between leaders. The Zephyrians believe that true diplomacy can only happen when both sides are completely open with each other." Before Morrison could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Morrison to the bridge. We're receiving another transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld." Morrison and Rodriguez quickly made their way to the bridge. The crew was already at their stations, looking tense. Communications Officer Danny Kim, a young man with Asian features and nervous energy, was adjusting the translation equipment. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The main viewing screen flickered to life, showing a figure that took Morrison's breath away. Queen Velthar was unlike anything he had ever seen. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, her body made of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with soft blue and purple light. Her face was humanoid, but somehow alien, with large eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. When she spoke, her voice was like music mixed with the sound of wind chimes. "Captain Morrison," the Queen said, her words translated by the computer into English. "I hope you have considered our invitation. Time grows short, and there are matters we must discuss that affect both our species. Morrison stepped forward. Your Majesty, I am honored by your invitation. However, I must admit that we don't fully understand what the ritual of unveiled truth involves. Could you explain it to us? The Queen's crystal form seemed to shimmer, and Morrison got the impression she was either amused or concerned. Captain, your species is young, but our observation suggests you possess something rare among the stars. The ritual will determine if our observations are correct. What kind of observations? Morrison asked. Other species approach diplomacy with layers of deception. They hide their true intentions behind false words and empty promises. The Andromedans came to us with 17 different hidden agendas. The Tau Centauri Collective tried to scan our minds while pretending to seek peace. The hegemony offered us alliance while secretly planning our conquest. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about the hegemony's tactics. They were known for making peace deals with advanced species, then using the knowledge gained to later attack and conquer them. The ritual of unveiled truth requires complete honesty, the Queen continued. All barriers must be removed. All pretense must be stripped away. Only then can we truly know if trust is possible between our peoples. Rodriguez stepped closer to Morrison and whispered, Captain, this sounds dangerous. We don't know what removing all barriers means to them. The Queen's large eyes seemed to focus on Rodriguez, even though she was speaking quietly. Your advisor is wise to be cautious, Captain. The ritual has risks for both sides. If deception is discovered, if true intentions are found to be harmful, the consequences are severe. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The Earth government had sent him on this mission with clear instructions. Establish peaceful contact with the Zephyrians at all costs. Their technology could help humanity defend against the hegemony's expansion toward Earth space. But what if the cost was too high? Your Majesty, Morrison said carefully, would it be possible for me to discuss this with my crew first? This is a decision that affects not just me, but my entire species. The Queen's form pulsed with what Morrison hoped was understanding. Of course, Captain. But know this, the hegemony fleet moves closer to your sector every day. They have conquered 17 systems in the past year alone. If humanity is to survive what is coming, you will need allies who can match their strength. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Morrison looked around at his crew. Rodriguez appeared worried. Kim was frantically checking his translation equipment as if hoping he had made an error. Engineer Pete Sullivan, a tall man with graying hair, was shaking his head slowly. Captain, Sullivan said, I've been monitoring their ship's energy signatures. Their technology is incredible. One of their vessels could probably take on an entire hegemony fleet. But if we mess this up, if we mess this up, we lose our only chance at survival, Morrison finished. I know. Rodriguez placed a hand on Morrison's shoulder. Captain, whatever this ritual involves, we're with you, but we need to be smart about this. Maybe we can find out more about what happened with the other species. Morrison nodded. Kim, give me everything you can find about the Zephyrians' previous diplomatic contacts. Sullivan, I want a full analysis of their ship's capabilities. Rodriguez, keep studying their culture. We have 12 hours before I need to give the Queen an answer. As his crew dispersed to their tasks, Morrison returned to the viewing window. The Zephyrian homeworld was visible in the distance, a beautiful blue and crystal planet that seemed to glow from within. Somewhere on that world, an alien queen was waiting for his decision. The fate of humanity might depend on what happened. In the next few hours, he had always known that first contact with advanced species would be dangerous. But he had never imagined it would require him to strip away all pretense and stand completely vulnerable before an alien ruler. The question was, did he have the courage to do what no other species had been willing to do? Jake's car screeched to a stop in front of the Santa's house. All the lights were on, but something felt wrong. The front door was hanging open, moving slightly in the evening breeze. Jake pulled out his sidearm and approached carefully. His military training kicked in automatically. Check corners. Listen for sounds. Assume the worst. Tom? Maria? Jake called out as he stepped through the doorway. He found them in the living room, unconscious but breathing. Tom was slumped in his chair. Maria was lying on the couch. Jake checked their pulses. Strong and steady. They had been drugged, not hurt. Jake ran upstairs to Alex's room. The bed was unmade. Toys were scattered on the floor. The window was open wide. Jake looked out and saw footprints in the soft dirt of the backyard. Several sets leading toward the alley behind the house. His phone rang. Unknown number. Morrison, Jake answered. Colonel Jake Morrison, said a voice with a strange accent. You are the human who found the child on Kepler 442b. Who is this? My name is Vex Cole. I am a high commander in the Zephyrian fleet. We have taken the boy. He is safe, but he is no longer your concern. Jake felt rage building in his chest. Where is he? The child belongs with his own people. He has a destiny that you cannot understand. His name is Alex, Jake said through gritted teeth. And he's my son. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Vex Cool spoke again, his voice colder than before. Impossible. The child's father died in the war. No, he didn't. I'm right here, and I'm coming for my boy. Vex Cool laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You know nothing about what the child truly is. He carries the genetic memory of Zarathel, one of our greatest leaders. He can access technology that even we have forgotten how to use. Jake was already moving toward his car. I don't care what he can do. He's still my son. You cannot stop us, human. We are already off your planet. The boy will be taken to the Zephyrian homeworld, where he belongs. The phone went dead. Jake stared at it for a moment, then threw it against the wall. It shattered into pieces. He ran back to his car and drove as fast as he could toward the nearest military base. Colonel Susan Hayes commanded the Denver Defense Station. If anyone could help him track a Zephyrian ship, it would be her. The base was busy even. At night, Jake showed his identification and demanded to see Colonel Hayes immediately. The guards tried to tell him she was in a meeting, but Jake pushed past them. He found Colonel Hayes in the command center, looking at star charts with her staff. She was a tough woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed. Nothing. Morrison, what are you doing here? She asked. You're supposed to be on leave. They took Alex, Jake said. The Zephyrians. They took my son. Colonel Hayes frowned. Your son? I thought you didn't have any children. Jake quickly explained everything. His recovered memories of Zarathel, Alex's hybrid nature, the phone call from Vex Cool. Colonel Hayes listened without interrupting, but her expression grew more serious with each word. This changes everything, she said when Jake finished. A human Zephyrian hybrid could be incredibly valuable to both sides. I don't care about strategy, Jake said. I just want my boy back. Colonel Hayes turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Park, do we have any tracking data on Zephyrian ships leaving Earth's atmosphere in the last 6 hours? Yes, ma'am. One ship departed from the Denver area approximately 2 hours ago. We lost track of it when it jumped to hyperspace. Can you determine its destination? Lieutenant Park worked at his console for several minutes. Based on its trajectory and known Zephyrian trade routes, it's probably heading for the Proxima system. There's a Zephyrian military station there. Colonel Hayes studied the star charts. Proxima is 3 days away at maximum hyperspace speed. If we left now, we might be able to intercept them. We? Jake asked. Colonel Hayes smiled grimly. You? Don't think I'm going to let the Zephyrians get away with kidnapping a child from American soil, do you? This is an act of war. Within an hour, Jake was aboard the military cruiser USS Ranger, heading toward the Proxima system. The ship's captain, Commander Richards, was not happy about the mission. This is suicide, Richards said, as they prepare for hyperspace jump. We're taking one ship, an entire Zephyrian military station. We're not going to attack the station, Colonel Hayes explained. We're going to intercept their ship. Before it arrives, force them to negotiate. Jake stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Alex was scared and alone, surrounded by aliens who spoke of destiny and genetic memory. Jake didn't care about any of that. He just wanted to hold his son and tell him everything would be okay. Colonel Morrison, said Lieutenant Commander Davis, the ship's intelligence officer, I've been reviewing the files on this Vex-Cool character. He's not just any military commander. He's part of the Zephyrian royal family. If he's personally involved in taking Alex, it means the boy is more important than we thought. Jake turned away from the window. What do you mean? According to our intelligence, the Zephyrians have legends about hybrid children. They believe that someone who carries both human and Zephyrian blood can bridge the gap between the species. They think Alex might be some kind of prophesied leader. That's ridiculous, Jake said. He's just a little boy. Maybe, but to them, he represents the future of their entire civilization. The hyperspace jump took 18 hours. When they dropped back into normal space, they were in the outer edge of the Proxima system. Captain Richards immediately ordered. A sensor sweep. Contact, reported the sensor operator. One Zephyrian ship, bearing 27 Mark IV. They're still 12 hours from the military station. Can we intercept them? Colonel Hayes asked. Yes, ma'am. We're faster than they are. Do. The USS Ranger changed course and accelerated toward the Zephyrian ship. Jake went to the weapons control station and checked the ship's armaments. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, defensive shields, everything he needed to get his son back. Remember, Morrison, Colonel Hayes said, we tried diplomacy first. We don't want to start a war over this. If diplomacy doesn't work? Jake asked. Colonel Hayes looked at him with understanding in her eyes. Then we bring your boy home. 4 hours later, they caught up with the Zephyrian ship. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a blade, cutting through space. Beautiful and deadly. At the same time, open a channel, Colonel Hayes ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Zephyrian ship. Vex-Cool stood in the center, wearing elaborate armor that seemed to glow with its own light. He was tall and thin, with pale skin and cold eyes. Colonel Hayes, Vex-Cool said, I expected you to follow us. Humans are predictably emotional about. They're young. We want the boy back, Colonel Hayes said. Return him, and we'll escort you out of this system peacefully. Vex-Cool smiled. I'm afraid that's impossible. The child has already begun to manifest his true abilities. He has accessed Zephyrian memory crystals that have been dormant for centuries. He is far too valuable to return. Jake stepped into view of the camera. Let me talk to him. Let me talk to Alex. Very well, Vex-Cool said. Perhaps you should see what your son has become. The image changed to show a different part of the ship. Alex was standing in a room filled with glowing crystals and strange machinery. His eyes were bright purple now, glowing with an inner light. When he spoke, his voice echoed strangely. Uncle Jake? Alex said. Is that really you? Jake's heart broke. The boy looked so small and lost among all the alien technology. I'm here. Alex, I'm going to bring you home. They showed me things, Alex said. Memories that aren't mine. I saw my mother. Her name was Zarafel. She loved you very much. Tears ran down Jake's face. I loved her too, son, and I love you. Alex smiled, and for a moment he looked like a normal 7-year-old boy again. I know. I can feel it. Even from here, I can feel how much you love me. The image switched back to Vex-Cool. As you can see, the boy is unharmed. But he can never return to his previous life. He knows too much now. He has seen too much. Then you leave me no choice, Jake said. He turned to Captain Richards. Fire a warning shot across their bow. The USS Ranger's plasma cannons fired a brilliant beam that passed just in front of the Zephyrian ship. Vexgul's image flickered as his ship shook from the energy discharge. You would risk starting a war for one child? Vexgul asked. Jake stepped closer to the camera. That's my son. I would burn down the galaxy to get him back. Vexgul studied Jake's face for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well, human. You want your child back? Come and take him. But know this, he will never be the same. The knowledge he has gained cannot be forgotten. He will always be caught between two worlds. I'll take that chance, Jake said. The communication channel closed. On the tactical display, the Zephyrian ship was turning to face them. Weapons powering up, the battle for Alex was about to begin. Colonel Jake Morrison stood in the hallway outside Tom and Maria Santos' house. He had been back on Earth for 3 days, but he kept finding excuses not to visit Alex. Something felt different this time. Something felt wrong. He pressed the doorbell and waited. Inside, he could hear footsteps and voices. Uncle Jake. Alex's voice called out before the door even opened. When Tom opened the door, Alex pushed past him and threw his arms around Jake's waist. The boy was taller now, almost 7 years old. But when Jake looked down at him, he felt that same strange protective feeling he had experienced in the ruins of New Geneva Colony. Hey there, Alex, Jake said, ruffling the boy's hair. You've grown a lot. I have so much to show you, Alex said excitedly. Come see my room. I made new drawings. Tom and Maria greeted Jake warmly, but he could see worry in their eyes. They led him to the living room, while Alex ran upstairs to get his drawings. How is he? Jake asked quietly. Maria and Tom exchanged glances. He's been having some problems at school, Maria said. Strange things happen around him. Electronic devices malfunction. Sometimes he seems to know things he shouldn't know. And the nightmares, Tom added. He wakes up speaking in a language we don't recognize. He draws the same woman over and over, but he says he's never seen her before. Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. What kind of woman? See for yourself, Maria said. Alex came running back downstairs with a box full of drawings. He spread them out on the coffee table. Jake looked at them and felt the world spin around him. Every single drawing showed the same face. Silver skin, white hair, eyes like deep space filled with stars. The woman from his dreams. The woman he could never quite remember when he woke. Up, Alex, Jake said carefully. Who is this woman? Alex looked at the drawings, then at Jake. I don't know. She comes to me in my dreams. She tells me she loves me, but she's always sad. Sometimes she cries. Jake's hands were shaking. He tried to hide it, but his mind was racing. The woman in Alex's drawings looked exactly like someone he had known, someone he had loved. But the memories were blurry, like looking through thick fog. Has anyone else seen these drawings? Jake asked. Just Mom and Dad, Alex said. And my teacher, Mrs. Johnson. She said I have a very active imagination. Jake stood up suddenly. I need to make a phone call. He walked outside and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Dr. Lisa Carter answered on the second ring. Jake, is everything okay? Lisa, I need you to look at something. Something about Alex. Can you meet me somewhere private? An hour later, Jake sat in Dr. Carter's office at the medical research facility. She was now the head of xenobiology research for the Colonial Defense Force. Her lab was filled with strange equipment and specimens from across the galaxy. Jake showed her photos of Alex's drawings on his phone. Dr. Carter studied them carefully, her face growing more serious with each image. Jake, these drawings, they show remarkable detail of Zephyrian facial structure, more detail than any human child should know. What are you saying? Dr. Carter turned to her computer and pulled up Alex's medical files. I've been thinking about Alex for years. There were always things that didn't add up. His unusual eye color, the pointed ears, his advanced intelligence, She highlighted several test results on the screen. I ran secret genetic tests using samples from his original medical exam. Jake, Alex isn't fully human. Jake felt like he had been punched in the stomach. What do you mean? He's a hybrid. Half human, half Zephyrian? This should be impossible, but the genetic evidence is clear. The room was silent for a long moment. Jake stared at the test results, trying to understand what they meant. How is that possible? Jake finally asked Dr. Carter, pulled up another file. There's only one way. One of his parents was human, the other was Zephyrian. Jake, do you remember anything from your time at Outpost 7? Any contact with Zephyrian personnel? Jake closed his eyes. The memories were there, just out of reach. A woman with silver skin shared meals under alien stars. The feeling of being in love. But every time he tried to focus on the details, they slipped away like water through his fingers. I think so, Jake said slowly. But I can't remember clearly. It's like something is blocking the memories. Dr. Carter frowned. That's not normal. Memory suppression usually requires medical intervention or severe trauma. She walked to a cabinet and pulled out a small device. This is a neural scanner. It can detect if your memories have been artificially suppressed. Do you want me to run a scan? Jake nodded. Dr. Carter placed the scanner against his temple and activated it. The screen filled with patterns of brain activity. Interesting, she said. There are definite signs of memory suppression. Professional work probably done by military medical staff. Someone didn't want you to remember something. Can you restore them? Maybe, but it's risky. The memories were suppressed for a reason. They might be traumatic. Jake thought about Alex, about the boy who called him Uncle Jake, about the protective feeling that had never gone away. Do it, Jake said. Dr. Carter prepared a different device. This will stimulate the suppressed neural pathways. You might experience some discomfort. She placed the device against Jake's head and activated it. Immediately, Jake felt like his brain was on fire. Images flashed through his mind like lightning. A beautiful Zephyrian woman. Long walks through purple flower fields. Secret meetings under twin suns. Love, loss, promises broken by war. Zarathel, Jake whispered. The memories came flooding back. Her laugh, her touch. The way she cried liquid. Starlight when she was sad. Their last night together. Her promise that he had given her the greatest gift possible. Jake opened his eyes and stared at Dr. Carter. Alex is my son. Dr. Carter nodded grimly. That's what the evidence suggests. You had a relationship with a Zephyrian named Zarathel. During the peace negotiations, she must have become pregnant and given birth without telling you. Jake felt like his entire world had been turned upside down. The boy he had saved from the ruins was his own child. The protective feeling he had always felt made perfect sense now. Why were my memories suppressed? Jake asked. Probably to protect. You and Alex, a human Zephyrian hybrid, will be seen as dangerous by both sides. If the wrong people found out, Jake stood up abruptly. I have to go back to him. I have to tell him the truth. Wait, Dr. Carter said. There's something else, something urgent. She pulled up classified intelligence reports on her computer. We've been monitoring Zephyrian communications. They've been talking about a lost prince, a hybrid child of great importance to their species. Jake felt cold fear creep up his spine. They're looking for Alex. More than that. We have reports of Zephyrian operatives on Earth. They've been watching someone in the Denver area for weeks. Jake was already heading for the door. I have to get to him now. Jake, wait. We need to involve command. This is bigger than just you and Alex. But Jake was already gone. He ran to his car and drove toward Denver as fast as he could. His mind was spinning with the new knowledge. Alex was his son with the woman he had loved and lost. The woman whose memory had been stolen from him. As he drove, Jake tried calling the Santa's house. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. A terrible feeling was growing in his stomach. He called again. Still no answer. Jake pressed harder on the accelerator. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. Alex was in danger, and Jake was the only one who could save him. But this time, he knew exactly who he was saving. This time, he was saving his own son. The war had taken everything from Jake. His memories, his love, his chance to be a father. But he would not let it take Alex. Not now. Not ever. As Jake raced through the night toward Denver, he didn't know that Alex was already gone. The boy had been taken while playing in his backyard. Tom and Maria were unconscious in their living room, unharmed but drugged. The Zephyrian operatives had finally made their move. The lost prince was coming home, whether he wanted to or not, but they had underestimated one thing. They had underestimated a father's love for his son. And Jake Morrison was about to show them exactly what humans were capable of when protecting their children.